Hello folks, welcome to my channel. As some of you may know, I've been driving my electric Jaguar for some time, about 2 years, and for about a little bit over a year it's been my daily driver. Pretty dependable, no issues. However, a few days ago I started noticing some weird sounds coming from underneath the car. At first it was very intermittent. Usually when I started the car I heard noise for a fraction of a second or maybe a second, and then it went away. It was kind of hard to pinpoint what it was, but then in a couple of days it got sound got worse and worse, a little bit louder, and for a little bit longer period of time, and then eventually, basically one day, the sound wasn't going away, and that became a little bit easier to identify. And turns out that the issue was with the hydraulic electric steering pump. I made a video about this a while back, and you can go back to this and see where it was located and how I installed it, and it was working pretty well all this time until now. So I had to fix the issue, so I started with pulling out the pump to inspect what really happened, to figure out what really happened with the pump. I had some concerns. I feared that it could possibly be the hydraulic section of the pump, because the noise was really bad, so I thought it might be a hydraulic section, and that wouldn't really be good at all, because usually when that happens you get a lot of metal particles, shavings, and they could contaminate the entire hydraulic steering system and end up in the steering rack and potentially damaging rack. So that will be a big problem for me. I'll have to, at the minimum, take everything apart and flush it. But luckily, it wasn't the case. So let me show you what I determined what the issue was and how I did this. So here is the main piece of pump. I have taken it apart already, so actually let me show you this way. So here is the hydraulic section of the pump, and it basically goes somewhere here, and it has this reservoir that was installed here, and using the metal band. So it looks like it might not be really well serviceable piece of equipment, but surprisingly it wasn't quite as bad. So the first started with this band because I needed to take off this reservoir, right? So the band was installed like here on the bottom. So I used this punch, just stuck this in here and just wiggled this a little bit and unbent this a little bit to make just enough room, just enough play on this band that I could really take this off. So this band is very strong, but I was able to unbend this part here, and it's perfectly reusable. So just have to make sure not to beat it up too much. So the band is perfectly reusable. So I'm gonna use this band again. It's in pretty much a very good condition. So once I got this reservoir off, then I unscrew this hydraulic section of the pump, and I took this hydraulic section apart as well, and I determined that there was really no issue As you can see, the shaft spins freely, no resistance, no noise. The gears were in very good condition. I didn't really see much wear of this. So I kept digging, and another possibility basically was that I thought would be with the electric motor, right? And so as you can see, there is one bearing right there, and that one is lubricated constantly by the steering fluid, and it seems to be in perfect condition, no issue, no problem. However, the rear bearing that was installed right here seized up completely. So basically right now the center piece, there's just no way to turn it at all. So basically it seized up, and when the rotor was turning, and basically this middle piece was acting as a bushing, and because it was completely stuck, and there's no any kind of lubrication there, so it was just a metal contact, and at the high RPM of this rotor, it just started eventually making some horrible noises. So that's really the culprit. And why am I even doing this? As I explained, first of all, I really needed to investigate, really to find out what happened, right? Whether it was more trouble caused by the hydraulic section, and whether I would need to inspect steering rack and stuff. So I needed to find out that. But I was really relieved to find out that this wasn't really hydraulic part, but it was this. Also, I wanted to take this apart to learn a little bit about how this pump really works, how it's constructed, how it's designed inside. So unfortunately there's no easy way to remove this cover. This cover is pressed in just like that, and I tried to pry it out, really no luck. I mean, it is just sitting there for good. There's no chance getting this off. So the only idea I came up with was just cut it around with the hacksaw. I don't really like destroying things, so I was somewhat careful. My original intention was not really about reusing this pump. I just assumed that I would just get a new pump, another pump as a replacement, and be done with this. But as I was working on this, I got some other ideas. So basically, so the problem with those pumps is that they are getting pretty old. So these were used in many different Volvo cars from somewhere around 2003, 2004 until 2010-11. C30, S40, S60. So you cannot really buy, obviously, new pump. Anything that you buy out there is going to be recycled old pump, right? So it may potentially not be much better than the one that I have here. So I started looking into possibility of perhaps reusing it, and so once I found out that the problem was with this bearing, I figured I might be able to replace it. And first it seemed a little bit difficult to pull this out, and you cannot really pull this out. You have to push it out from the other side. So, and you don't have really much to work with on this side, because all you have is this original bearing here, and you have to somehow push it out. And how do you do this, right? Because this bearing is on the other side, right? So I figured if I have some punch like this, stick it in, and if there is a little play, right, then I can align it at a little angle and tap it from this side, and that's exactly worked as I expected. The only trouble was that this was a little bit too short. I could only push the bearing out by like 16 of an inch, right? So needed something else. So I grabbed this bolt and basically used this bolt and very gently tapped it with a hammer and press out this bearing. So the bearing seems like it's actually a very common bearing. It's a 6000 LU is the actual model, but it comes with several different variations. I think the key is the 6000 number that defines what the dimensions of these bearings are, and this is 26 millimeters outside, 10 millimeters inside, and 8 millimeters thick here. So I was able to source replacement bearing from Amazon. It's only $5 delivered next day. So, and as you can see, it's, other than the color, it's pretty much identical bearing. It's the most important that you get the same kind, which is sealed internally on both sides, because there is no lubrication here. Now the only challenge was how to close it back again. So when I started this assembly, I didn't really think of this, that I will be putting it back together in service, and obviously this area has to be perfectly sealed from elements, right? So how to do this? So luckily I did fairly good job cutting it, so it's pretty nice smooth cut, and it aligns still really nicely. So I figured I will just make some simple adapters like this, and what I'm going to do is I'm gonna install two of those adapters using those little 1/8 of an inch rivets. So it will go like this: one rivet here, another rivet here. These are the rivets, 1/8 of an inch. So another here. The same bracket I'm gonna have on the other side, and this fits pretty nicely here. I'm gonna then use small 3 millimeters screws here and here, and again the same thing on the side. So this will become actually pretty serviceable if I ever have to open this up again. And when I'm gonna be putting it back together, obviously I'm gonna use some silicone around to seal it, and this should really do the trick. So let me put this back together. It's not something I guess interesting to do on a camera, but I will put it back together, show you what it looks like and how it works again in a car. Okay folks, here it is, a pump fully assembled, just as I described before. I installed the brackets with those two little rivets here, and then used the bolts to attach the cover. Before I put the cover on, I put a really small bead of this RTV silicone, and looks like it's sealed really nicely. I'm gonna set it aside for this silicone to fully cure until tomorrow morning, and then I will install the pump in the car and test how it works. So here it is. All right, I'm just about to install this pump. The adhesive RTV is all cured by this time. I did trim the excess a little bit around with the knife. Technically, you shouldn't do this, but I think there is enough in there to seal it properly. So came out pretty nicely. It's pretty clean. So now just one advice, if I were to give anyone attempting this, now that I know how this pump is designed, I would say that the order would be definitely taking off the reservoir, taking out the hydraulic section of the pump to get to the electric motor shaft, because there is a locking ring on a shaft that has to be taken out in order to pull out the rotor, and so this needs to definitely be taken care of first, and after that this cover can be cut open, but so the way I would recommend doing this, I would basically cut it right in the middle here, just this round part. So because the only area that you need to get access to would be this rear bearing here, and that's enough. And what that would do is, that would, in my opinion, greatly simplify putting it back together. You wouldn't really have to make any of those brackets that I made here. I envision it would be just very easy if you make a clean cut. Just put those two pieces together and basically tape it around with some strong tape, because this doesn't really have any structural function. It's just a dust-up, you know, if you will, and it could be easily just taped around, and I think that would definitely do the trick. This is not touching anywhere. You just need to seal it from dust and moisture. So I think that would be a good approach to do this. So let me put this back together. I need to install this bracket around and put it back in the car. Alright, I just finished installation of the pump. I tested, everything looks great. Let me turn it on so you can hear the sound. So I don't know how much you're gonna be able to hear. It's probably gonna come out fairly loud, but I can tell you that the noise level is so much lower than ever before, since I remember installing the pump about year or so ago. So it's actually not that bad. So I think that the bearing was failing for a while and was making it the pump pretty loud. So these are not the quietest things in the world, but it's pretty reasonable. I did also find some marking on the pump indicating the year of production, and I'm fairly confident that this pump is from 2004. So it's pretty old pump, and it lasted for quite a long time, and the bearing failure, it's not really surprising after this many years. So I think this is gonna much extend the life of the pump, and it will serve me for a good amount of time from now on. So not everybody is obviously gonna be willing to attempt that kind of repair. Like I said, you may just get a replacement pump and hope for the best, but I think for me it was well worth it. good learning experience, and now I got my pump pretty serviceable. If that bearing fails anytime in the future, then I can really easily replace it. So let me turn it off. So yeah, I think yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with this repair, and pump works a lot better. It's a lot more quiet now. So if you like this video, consider subscribing if you have not done this yet, and hit the like button. It's gonna help with the so-called algorithm. And I have a lot more interesting upgrades coming in the future, so I'll see you next time.